Hello, welcome to Sonic Talk number 394. If you've been missed last week, you will notice that that is our new theme tune. That was by Peter Rundgren, who's the winner of the new of the Sonic Talk theme tune competition at, I don't know, 150, I think, 130, I think it was in the end. And I know I promised I was going to get a playlist together for the top entries, but I'm afraid I haven't had time. But I will do it. I really promise. I'm just seeing, because actually Peter Rundgren did reply in effusive terms. Congratulations, you won. He said, yes, hi, thank you, that is fantastic, thank you for a great show. What a feeling it was to start the show. I watch every week and hear my own tune. Truly amazing. I usually watch the show live but wasn't able to yesterday, so I wasn't in the chat room, so he missed the announcement live, which is so maybe he's there this time. So he's very pleased, and it was done in live, and I think he was going to send us a little bit of information about it. Oh, in fact, yes, he made it the tune the same day the competition was announced. Got the idea instantly when he saw the animation that was done. That's by Steve Blacker, and he did it in about 2 hours. He was aiming for a melody, so he got some 808 basses. The pulse was already in the animation, so he wanted to capture more subtle. He used the guitar samples edited from Sugar Bites. He used most of the sounds were from Yuhi Bazil and Glitch Machine's Polygon, which is an interesting one. I don't think I know much about that. And he put it all together with 30 clips and then sort of cut it together and slowed it down. The voice is Veronica, slowed down 150%. That's the Mac in Talk sort of speaking voice. So there we go. So thank you very much for your entry, and congratulations once again. I also want to say thank you very much to our sponsors. Obviously, iZotope with us. If you were around last week, you'll know that we have a copy of iZotope Iris 2. Their new, well, I suppose it's not as new as it was, but it's certainly new to them. New instrument which allows you to take spectral samples and filter and all those things. We'll have more information on that later, including the winner of the competition and, of course, yet another one this week, so you can win it again. So fairly soon, at this rate of generosity, we'll have got through the entire audience. Well, that's not actually true. We've got plenty of people in the chat room. I want to say thank you very much. There's the, oops, I don't think I wanted that. Win big. I don't know what that's doing there. That's probably not supposed to be there, but I'm not quite sure how I get rid of that. That seems to have just, oh, that's interesting. I now have a something else. Anyway, welcome to the chat room. Welcome everybody. I've rambled on for long enough, so I'll get on to my guests. Well, first of all, we have Mr. Mark Tinley, who's looking very well. We're used to seeing him in the kitchen, and now we've got a sort of white wall behind him with what looks like a guitar hanging up. He's in a new venue because he moved house, so his bandwidth isn't quite. He needs to tinker with it a little bit. But welcome, Mark Tinley. MarkTinley.co.uk.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. I'm a really long way from the kitchen in this house. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 flights of stairs away. Bizarrely, in the cellar. But I've moved. I have moved, and I've managed to plug things in. So that's exciting, isn't it? So yes, hello, I'm here.
Yes, I know. You can hear that we're struggling with your bandwidth. Definitely, your voice is breaking up a little bit, but we'll work on. We'll persevere. We've also, excuse me, I think we might have Dave Spears. He's winging his way back to his house, so he may show up or he may not, depending on how the traffic is. But thank you very much. Anyway, and Richard was going to be here, but he's unavailable today. But we've got plenty of guests. We've also got Mr. Gaz Williams, GazWilliams.me, professional bass player, music technologist, producer, all of those things. In fact, Gaz was here yesterday when we shot a whole bunch of stuff on the Teenage Engineering pocket operators, and we will be bringing you his findings very shortly. How are you, Gaz?
Yeah, good, thanks. That was good yesterday. It was interesting to really get to the bottom of these pocket operators, I think.
Absolutely.
In quite a thorough way. So I think the reviews should be. I'm interested to see what people are going to make of them. People have been asking me in the chat room, what have I bought this week? Thinking, do I really have something every week? But yes, sadly, I do have something new this week. Hang on, can I show?
Oh, they are pretty.
So
Fender vaporizers, right?
Yeah, and valve amps, really cool. And I think what's really nice about them, basically, I've got a big stereo rig in here, lots of effect pedals, but and I wanted to, well,
hear them in stereo.
It's a funny thing. Yeah, I've got various amp modelers and software amp modelers and stuff, and it's just not as good, is it? But I'm putting synths through them as well, which sounds nice. But just a heads up about those Fender vaporizers, they're being sold off for really cheap. They were just a limited edition amplifier, they said they were just making them for the year 2014. But lots of places are doing them at really good discount. So I thought I'd go for two.
Right. Oh, well, nice one.
Yeah, but they're nice because they're 2x10s, so they're actually quite a big full sound, and they are nice, quiet. So if you got neighbor concerns and stuff, it's quite a nice way to get nice big valve sounds at not ridiculous volumes.
Excellent. And that's good to hear. Sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of this win big, which I'm trying to bring because I want to bring the chat room in, and it's got this. Oh no, that's all right. It's fixed now. Everything's okay. There's the chat room, fulsome chat room. I'm going to say it again. I don't care. That sounds fun. So, have you been rocking out then? Have you had any complaints from the neighbours?
No, not yet. But yeah, it's just stereo. Just deluxe stereo is just so glorious to wallow within.
Yeah, no, nice. Sorry, I'm still trying to fix this, but I'm sure I'll get there in the end. I don't know where that lower third came from. It's all a bit random. So if I do that, it's gone now. There we go, fixed. Right. Well, this week, and it is a little bit of a light on topics, but we do have some. And one of them was interesting. This came from Rich Hilton actually, who then couldn't make it. I'm just seeing if I've got I should have. Have I got it here? Oh, this is the thing. Have I found that? Here we go. This is the. They're called Acusonus Drumatom 2, and this is basically a plugin that allows you to put it across the kit. And if I press a bit here, I've still got that.
The gate will open, and you'll still hear the bleed of the hi-hat on the snare.
Basically, you can
get rid of to solve this problem.
Here we go.
The gain reduction of the hi-hat changes, and the tone of the snare is affected. Listen to how Drumatom pulls out the hat without affecting the tone of the snare. Drumatom.
It's an interesting notion, don't you think? I mean, Gaz, you do a lot of recording. I mean, I know you're less about spot miking, but I mean, presumably you've had to be in that situation before. It's as Rich Hilton actually said, because he brought this topic up. He said, "Well, actually, I quite like the sound of drum spill if it's done right. Without them, maybe it's good for drum triggers and that sort of thing." I don't know what you think about this.
It is an interesting one. I mean, there has been times where I guess this piece of software would have come in useful, but I also wondered whether it would kind of give a slightly artificial sound, where it'll sound a bit more like drum samples. Yeah. Because it's interesting how the big drum, like VSTs have really gone to great lengths to model bleed, other mics bleeding in.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but I guess it is controllable, and I suppose sometimes when you're working and you are getting a lot of bleed, and it is a bit frustrating. I mean, mostly it's frustrating when you want to do edits, like timing edits and stuff like that on the drums. I think if it's a great drum performance, then the bleed isn't such an issue, and does kind of contribute to bringing the drums to life to a certain degree. But when you are kind of in that phase game where the phase cancellation that's going on is affecting the tone of the drums, then I can imagine. I think this is an interesting piece of software. I mean, it's relatively expensive, so I do think it's
$399 US, isn't it? I think.
So I think it's a pro piece of kit that is the sort of thing that you'd have in your toolbox. Would be a great thing to have in your toolbox. But as would I use it much? I probably would use it sometimes. I mean, I'm quite a fan of I like gating drums, and I think gates are pretty good. There's some intelligent gates that you can get,
Yeah.
plug-in gates. So I think this is quite a specialist piece of kit. I think, as I say,
I could see it perhaps be very useful for sort of metal when you really want to clean it up and you want to sort of clean because there's lots of cymbals and stuff going on. And you really want to kind of delineate the frequencies and have things, but because I mean the thing is, miking and mixing a kit is not an easy thing. I remember the first time I started in Sample World, and I used I was a live engineer for a long time. My first time in a recording studio when I had to mix a drum kit, it was just like, oh my god, I have no idea how to make this sound any good.
Sorry, the last thing I was going to say though is I've changed from being really into multi-miking to more the Glyn Johns school of things of as few mics as possible on the kit, and a kick and one or two overheads, and I love that. I just love the lack of options that you get with it. That you spend more time getting that right, and so to that end, this as you mentioned, it might be less interesting to me. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that.
It's very interesting though. I know, Mark, what you think. It's funny, isn't it, when you mic a drum kit up? It really doesn't, usually when you close mic, it really doesn't sound anything like, it's hard to make it sound anything like it does in the room without using lots of overheads and ambient mics, I find generally.
It's like going like this, isn't it? So you're starting off with all your mics are spaced like this, and then it's kind of like doing that. And you narrow because the electrical signal can travel much faster than the physical sound can travel, you narrow the size of the drum kit by it virtually brings all of the microphones in and makes the drum kit really tiny. So I'm with Gaz. I think a mic in the kick and a pair of mics in the room, that is what a drum kit sounds like. A drum kit's got natural space around each of the drums, and there's natural time delays between different drums, and that creates the whole sense of spaciousness, width, direction, all of that good stuff. So having said that, if I've got a snare mic'd up and I've got bleed all over it, and I want to put something really, really over the top, a really over the top effect on it, and I've got bleed coming in, that would be when I'd use this. When I'd go, I want the snare, but I want to stick the snare a bit crusher, and then I want it flanged, and then I want it to go into like a spatial thing. So like every time he hits the snare, it's just doing this whole thing of its own. But if there's lots of like overhead ride cymbals splashing into the snare or hi-hat splashing into the snare, you can't do that quite so easily. So I guess it would have its uses.
Oh, you certainly got better. Excellent.
Did I?
Yeah. Top end arrived.
But I still don't think, I don't think close mic drums sound like drum kits. In fact, I think that's the biggest problem when you go to see a band live and it has like this big live sound, and then they record it. So I've been on stage where I've been with the band on stage, and then I've gone and walked into the truck where they've been sending a feed from the stage into a truck, and I've sat in front of a pair of monitors, and I've gone, this in here just sounds kind of flat and tiny, and out there it sounds big and spacious. So what are they doing? And it's taken me years to realize that it's that physical distance between the mics isn't replicated when you get into a recording world. And I wish somebody would design that in. Somebody could write a piece of software that says all the mics are placed like this in the physical space, so let's just create all the time delays that would be happening in the physical space, and then maybe even you can have the listening point. It would be easy to do DSP now, and
I see what you mean.
It would make it sound really different. Actually, could be a whole new realm of recording if somebody invented that.
I wonder if there's actually. I'm speaking of live. I mean, this might actually be more useful. I don't know if it's possible for these things to work in real time on a sort of accelerated platform, something like that. But that might be where it's useful, because you can tighten down the spill, because you're going to get loads of spill, down the vocal mic, down various other mics as well. Particularly if you've got the sort of band where maybe you've got a quiet singer and all of those kind of things. I mean, that might be quite useful there to actually just cut the. Because obviously you get a lot of stuff coming off stage, depending on the size of the venue. Maybe that's where it would be very useful.
Yeah, I think it would.
I don't know.
And
I don't know how much.
whether it can work in real time or whether it has to analyze it and then pull it apart. I don't know. It did sound quite good though. I mean, when they went from the snare with the pattern and then went to just the snare, it didn't really seem to change particularly. I thought, okay, that's
no,
quite
it didn't.
impressive.
But it's interesting what it did though. It started to sound less like a real drum and more like a sample, which is really curious because I mean that's purely psychoacoustics, really, isn't it? Because you're not hearing the spill. Interesting.
Yeah,
but I could imagine that at mixdown, and when you are trying to just get the fatness of the tone, I could imagine it being a dead good tool. Now and again, I think it would be a really cool tool. So I think this is a good piece of software, but I do think that its uses are maybe, occasional use.
Yeah, or I suppose the other thing is, if you run a studio and you've got a lot of bands coming through that haven't got budget and you've got to get it through and out the door sounding as good as it possibly can and, tight and the sort of thing that they expect to hear on a record, then putting this on the drum kit is going to maybe, just get you there much faster without, because every drum kit's different. You might use the same mics, every drummer plays differently and the setup's different. Maybe this is a really good way to kind of really tighten the focus on the drums, because as we know, when you're doing demos or any kind of recording for people, the drums, particularly their live drums, are the thing that people just go, gosh, that doesn't sound like a record, or that really does. It can often, one of the things, not the main thing, obviously. You can get that via Plugin Alliance. Let's have a look. It's Plugin Alliance. It's called Acusonus Drumatom, as in drum atom 2. Removes bleed from microphone drum tracks. In fact, Rich did send us a little bit of information about what he thought about this. I'm just going to see if I can find where it is. I thought I had it in an email. Let me just see if I can find it, because he said he actually prefers the sound of drum spill with well-recorded mic kits, and I can understand why he might. Let me see. Yeah, if you do, welcome to note that he says, welcome to note that in no case did I think it made anything sound better, though it might be useful for extracting drum triggers or effect settings or placement. But in general, he doesn't like the idea. He wants a positive leakage. No leakage on drum sounds. Delete expletive to me. Otherwise, but I think that's a fair point. Particularly, but bearing in mind that Rich is a highly experienced, world-class recording engineer who knows what he's doing when it comes to recording drums. So, he doesn't have... It's a problem that perhaps he doesn't actually have, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, let's take a look at another quick topic here. Yes, this was interesting. I found this on Discord, and this was basically... we were talking about... Camel Audio and Alchemy that sort of suddenly disappeared and said, that's it, it's over, we're shut, and you can still get support until July the 7th, 2015, and then subsequently, there's nothing else going on the site. And it turns out that some people have been doing some digging. In fact, I saw it on Discord, which is Apple Eats Camel, which is another one of his classic headlines. But then the source of the story seemed to be in Apple Insider, and basically it seems like if you check the company registration details now, basically the Camel Audio appointed known Apple Europe lawyer Heather Joy Morrison is now as its director, and it's relocated to that the actual company address is 100 Bridge Street, New Bridge Street, London, which is Apple's official UK address. So it does look a little bit like that's true. In which case, there's 2 points I'd like to discuss here. I wonder what that means. I'm guessing, it does take a while for them to incorporate their new purchases into any release, as we see with Redmatica, that's now sort of, their technology has been put into ESX Sample. I'm wondering if they're gearing up for a new round of virtual instruments with a new release of Logic. I don't know. What do you think, Gaz?
Yeah, we did speculate about this, and the way that Camel just shuttered, the way they shut up shop was very I think a lot of people suspected this, and I think I think that is obviously what's happened. I think it
could be. Actually, I just want to say it's a great chip in the chat room. Sonic4289. Apple is buying Peter Frampton next, so they can send Camel albums to your iTunes. Maybe it's a tie-up, yeah, like the U2 thing. Do you? I don't know, but I mean, because we know there's some, there's a great. I did see. I had a good look at the Logic X, the latest release, and there's some fantastic additions to it. I mean, the Retina display, the rack stuff is starting to look interesting. Maybe there is a bit of focus going into that because I mean, obviously they. On the surface, at least, Apple don't look like they've been putting a lot of attention into the kind of pro audio side of things. And I know that they are keen to kind of not be seen like they're letting that go. So maybe this is good news, right?
Well, we speculated, I think, when this news first broke that Apple may be interested in Camel because of the fact that they're proficient on both computer and on the iOS platform, certainly on the iPad, which makes it quite an attractive company to buy. And we on Sonic Touch were very fond of Alchemy.
Yeah, it's great.
Alchemy Mobile, as obviously a fantastic piece of software on the desktop as well. And the way that you could essentially whatever you do on your desktop can work on the iPad, and there was a very nice link up there. So I can see them looking like what they were one of the crown jewels of in the iOS world, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say.
So I can see that they must have got the attention of Apple. So I'm quite interested. I'm quite interested to see what will happen. I think it's a shame for non-Apple users though, because Camel were one of the most talented developers around, and so that's a bit of a shame.
Mate, we don't know the details yet, but it's interesting. I know, Mark, I can't recall whether, because you went over to using Live, didn't you? You were still kind of using Logic at all, or are you pretty much kind of now working in Live?
No, I've got my world is Logic and Pro Tools and Reaper and Live at the moment, just to confuse myself. So yeah, I'm still using Logic. I know I've gone back and forth to the Camel thing a number of times and never really got into it, I suppose, or never really got it. But it's something I've tried. Sort of Alchemy, is it? Alchemy?
Yeah, that's right.
That was their synth, wasn't it? And I've tried some of their kind of compressors and all sorts of different things, and really, there's only so many of those things you can get your head around, aren't there? I suppose. At the end
I suppose that's fair enough.
But things like Camel Fat though has been a real mainstay for people for years and years and years, and in part, I think, even though that is essentially filters and distortion and compressors or whatever, it has this really simple and easy to use interface, and I think a lot of people would be very sad to see Camel Fat go. I think
well, maybe.
What about? So they had loads of public domain stuff as well, didn't they? What happened to all that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. That's a good point.
There was a really good squashy compressor. I think I did in that AU plugins roundup I did about 7,000 years ago.
Yes, I remember that.
One of those things was a Camel audio thing, which was actually really good. Thinking about it.
That's an element from Camel Fat, I think, wasn't it? Was it Camel? Someone said in the chat room, Camel Crush. Is it Camel Crush? Was that?
Oh, Camel Crusher. Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, there we go. I mean, the other thing is what? I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I got the call saying, "Yeah, we want to buy you." I mean, you could think, oh, wow, that's awesome. I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, because obviously as a small software developer, I mean, I'm assuming they're small. I mean, I don't remember seeing large teams and large booths, so forgive me if I'm misrepresenting, but it must be quite a kind of exciting time and think, oh, well, this is the exit strategy, which would be, it would be kind of an awesome feeling in many ways, and so you can understand why one would jump at the opportunity were it to arise in one's own life.
Yeah, but it seems a shame that the whole, like when you think about the Red Massacre thing, they just squashed that completely and it's disappeared for like 2 or 3 years, hasn't it? And that was a really, really good tool for sample editing and stuff. And I don't think it's really turned up in any version of EXS24 or Mainstage in its entirety yet. So
no, it's part of the functionality is in ESX24 in the new version, I believe. I think that's what I saw.
Oh, in the very latest version,
yeah,
is it?
that's right.
Okay.
It's quite a big
Very
update there. Is it 10.2? I can't remember what the iteration is. I think it is.
Yeah, 10 points.
Yeah.
No, 10.1, isn't it?
10.1, I think.
10.1. I just want to say in the chat room, some great speculation. Apple Sonic Talk. Apple could buy Sonic Talk, Apple products only, and we could have applestate.com, according to Andy Keys. I'm totally up for it, but I can't imagine that's likely to be. But I appreciate the... yeah. Sonic State Now videos would just be 5-hour live streams from the Apple booth, assuming they ever actually had an Apple booth. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is all a bit of larks. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine it would be a very attractive proposition in many ways.
Yeah, but there is a flip side, though, isn't there, as well, though, that Apple could put a load of money into that talented development team, and that could kind of realize some fantastic, ambitious ideas that they may have got. And, so there could be a positive outcome, maybe.
Yeah, but just to be clear, I'm perfectly okay with Sonic Beats headphones or iSonic or iSonic Talk. That's fine. If anyone else wants to get in touch with any sort of propositions of that magnitude, I'm certainly willing to consider them. Anyway, that's just a bit of fun. But yeah, do check it out. And just breaking news, it's just come in. Did you know Whitesnake have just announced they're going to release a new album called the Purple Album. There you go. For those of you soft rockers. David Coverdale? I do remember there are a couple. I am a sucker for the occasional bit of poodle rock. There are like maybe 3 or 4 tracks, and I think Whitesnake was one of them. I can't remember what the track was called, but I don't think I'll be buying the album. But just in case that's the sort of thing that floats your boat, I just want to say breaking news. These are the sort of things that are important. But anyway, let's get back to our sponsors, because our sponsors are, of course, very important to us, and our sponsors are in the form of iZotope, of course. iZotope Iris 2, 11 gigabyte sample library now comes with Iris 2. Patches from the Iris sound library also comes with an enormous selection of analog synthesizer waves. It really does sound kind of amazing. They've completely redone a lot of the synthesis engine underneath. Now got 4 sample slots, not just the 2+2, or 3 perhaps it was, I think in the past. Got 5 LFOs, 5 envelope generators, macros, and the modulation system is really nifty. You can see there that in the video, if you're watching the video version, that you can just route things and you can see exactly how it all links up. There's a multi-mode master filter, which actually sounds really nice. Of course, there you can see the spectral analysis and the ability to grab certain parts of a waveform. This is just a selection of some of the sounds. You can individually loop the individual samples, crossfades, all that kind of stuff. It really is a very powerful synthesis engine, and something that's well worth checking out if you take your synthesis seriously. You can download it for free for a 10-day demo. Iris 2, iZotope.com/Iris, and that's a 10-day fully functional demo. So do check that out. And of course, if you've been watching regularly, you'll know that iZotope do sponsor the show, and they have in fact sponsored us this time as well. From last week's show, we have a winner. We asked you to tweet out, you will need to tweet, the hashtag Iris2 synthesizer and to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. And excuse me, and we got a winner. This is Randall G. Hill, who goes under the Twitter handle rhill109. He added the little comment, makes me sound like I know what I'm doing. Great work. Excellent stuff. And also, while we're at it, let's go to the competition this week's competition. If you want to win a copy of Iris 2, because they're going to give it away as well, you can hashtag Iris 2 expertly crafted. I'm sort of plucking random phrases from the copy of the website at the moment, because we have been running this for quite some time, and I think we might change it up actually shortly. So at Sonic State and at iZotope Inc. If you just tweet basically this, you're entered. But you've got 140 characters, so do add something else there, because we do like to have a bit of additional extra love, and I know they monitor it and we monitor it, and it always gives us good fun. So if you want to win Iris 2, that's what you need to do. Tweet the hashtag Iris 2 expertly crafted, all one word, to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. Anyway, thank you very much for the sponsorship of the show. Let's move on to our next topic. Now, what was the next one? I'm willing to take take votes on this, because I did introduce some of the topics that we had last week, Gaz, just purely because it was a bit light. I know that I noticed that Ableton Live 9.2 is in beta, which is kind of another big new, because obviously Ableton Live is a massive DAW and kind of revolutionised the way that the composition and arrangement is done on the fly. I know, Gaz, you're big into Ableton. I mean, what does this mean to you? Is there, have you seen what there is going to be in there, and is there stuff there that you haven't seen that you'd like to see?
I just having a quick look through this. So latency compensation. Well, there would have been latency compensation before, but what's that?
Well, I've got I'll go through it here, and you can catch up while I say it. Basically, what it looks like, there's going to be improved warping, several refinements to the Live's audio warping engine, which is well worth having, because I know that it's a very sort of fixed kind of thing, and there is a certain sound to it. So any improvements in that will be fantastic.
Definitely.
Complex and complex pro modes now feature punchier transients, even at extreme settings. That's got to be good. Yeah, latency compensation improvements, which you can run in terms of Macs for live devices, and third-party plugins now have lower latency as well. Automation is fully compensated. There's a tuner. Okay, that's big news.
I know, that is big news. Well, not big news, but I mean, I was using Live the other day, and I thought, oh, I wish there was a tuner built into it. And like, especially with all these ARP Odyssey users who are going to be plugged straight into their systems, you know, I reckon they'd probably appreciate easier access to tuning.
I've got a really good solution to that.
What's that?
I use a plugin from a company called Melder Productions, and their tuner is absolutely awesome. It's the best. I've tried, I don't know, maybe about 20 different tuners, and I settled on that one. That it is really good. It can do tuning in hertz or in notes and plus minus frequencies.
Oh, here we go. Oops, no, that's not it. Is that it there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think I've seen that. That does look nice.
I recommend that. It's really good.
Okay,
it really picks stuff up well, and it seems to be like accurate to the hertz.
That's a great tip. Thank you very much. I don't see. I'm just trying to see how much it costs. Buy online.
I bought it as
€49. Yeah, a part of a bundle. Okay. Okay, well, so a tuner's good. So you're happy with the tuner as long as it's a good tuner, because it's easy to make a rubbish tuner.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think one of the joys of using Ableton Live, as I'm sure many people can attest, is just the kind of the speed and slickness of the workflow. So things like building a tuner, you know, anything that helps in that workflow, I think, is great. I noticed the 64 pads then for push users,
that's
which I think that's cool, because, you know, when you play on the push and you've just got the what was it? You just had like 16 drum pads, and then you had the step sequencer part of it, and yes, the whole kind of drum rack way of laying, you know, being able to have your drum rack essentially, or most of it, I would have thought, spread across the 64.
Yeah, because at the moment, I've got one here. I think it's just this part here. There's a sort of square at the bottom. Oh, I think it's this side actually. Square at the bottom, which is your pads, and then you zoom up and down, and the step sequencer runs across these pads.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So,
I'm presuming
so it's 64 now, is it?
Yeah. That's got.
Well, presumably it will be a choice though for the people who want to keep working.
Yeah, it must be just an extra layout kind of concept there. So that's.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. I know. Gosh, because it's been a while since I've used Push, but a lot of people wanted the step sequencer part of the drum programming to be applicable to pitched notes.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done that.
No,
yet,
there's a note sequencer as well. Yeah, there is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Push,
I'm sorry.
There is.
I'm a little bit out of touch with that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good to see them developing Push, because it's been a while, I think, since there's been much development in Push world. Again, I am a little bit out of touch with that. But
sorry, go.
No, just that one thing that is very nice with a like a point release, like in this going to a 0.2, they do spend an awful long time refining these updates these days. So I think they're pretty solid when they come out. So I think that side of things will be know,
I'm
will
just
be good.
seeing no more 10.6 in new live, writes Zen Artist in the chat room. I'm presuming that must mean OS, Mac OS 10.6, so it's got to be set 10.7 and above, I'm guessing, maybe. That's unconfirmed, so I'd have to check that out. But that I mean, there comes a time when that sort of thing does tend to sort of happen. The one thing I would like to ask for, and this is something that I've always, is the tempo and the bar counter. I would like a big mode, so that you could just see really easily where you are in terms of beats and stuff, because I find that very very small. I'm like a pop out or some way of just kind of going, I want that really big, because certainly when you're running live and you kind of just got a glance and you may be looking at the screen quickly, you can't, you know, especially if you're using push or something, it'd be nice to be able to see where you are in terms of bar counts and beat counts. And particularly maybe if you're triggering clips off pads and things, I think that sort of information is actually quite useful, and it's something that I think has been missing as well.
So there's been
Mark, yep.
I was going to say, I have another tuning thing here. I'll just bring this bugger down. I bought one of these.
What is that? Is that a
It's
robot
called
tuner?
Tronical.
Oh, you got the Tronical.
Yeah. So I put it on this guitar, and it basically, if I press this button back here, and then I strum it.
Did I hear everything just going zzz, zzz? Oh, I can see them whizzing around, zooming, just about make it out in your pixelator. But
And now it's in tune, which is bloody brilliant.
that's handy.
And you can change the drop tunings, like drop G or drop B or drop A.
Drop A, open G, open A. And quite quickly as well, you just like dial it in on the back and say, I want to change to open G, and you strum all the strings and it goes.
Oh, that's
20
neat.
seconds later, you're in open G. It's brilliant. Really good.
That's quite handy, especially for live, I'd imagine, if you've got kind of multiple songs.
I'd done a tour with a guitarist using robot tuners on a Gibson, and he was tuning between sets, and I'm sure it took longer than it would have done just to go, you know.
Maybe, but not to switch between tunings. The thing is, when I'm on stage, I can't differentiate between when I'm in tune and when I'm not. and if I'm using a tuner, like the best tuner I had on stage was a Korg one, which was quite good. But the Boss, or the early Boss ones, used to swing around all over the place. If there was any other noise on stage, it used to cause them to give kind of spurious readouts, and then I'd end up with my guitar just basically out of tune. So I just kind of like this because it's.
Will it tune? Say if you've got slight intonation problems, you hold down a bar chord, for instance. Will it tune to that, or a capo, or that kind of thing?
I don't know the answer to. I know it can only tune. It goes to close where it thinks it needs to be, and then if it's more than a tone out or two semitones, it will gets lost and struggles, and you have to get it. So it has. You have to be when you first put the strings on. You've got to be within. You've got to be within a tone either way. Otherwise, it gets completely confused and just starts winding them all over the place. So
I'm just thinking, what happens if you get like a software crash in it and it just goes crazy and starts kind of cranking all your strings high and low and all over the place? That'd be quite. That might be quite fun to witness, perhaps not to.
Could be quite interesting, couldn't it?
It could be.
I would record it, I guess.
And I suppose, really, if you think about it, that sort of thing could be tuned so that if it's, I don't know how fast the motors are in it, but so you could actually have that kind of steel pedal kind of thing, so you go bing and it bend like maybe two strings or whatever. I don't know. I'm rambling really. I know nothing about such things.
It would be like triggering it in time that would be interesting.
Yeah, I
Somebody
suppose
said it's going to break my neck. It hasn't broken any strings. The strings are they're screwed down at the top. The only thing that tends to knock it out of tune is the fact that I've got that trapeze bridge on it at the back, and it has and that rings, and it's got this really weird kind of ring to it. So if the guitar's really cranked up, it's like a sort of demented spring reverb on it. It's kind of like goes. It has its own kind of chord, which isn't a chord.
Right, okay. Well, thank you for that. That's worth knowing. So yeah, Live 9 has gone into public beta. Well, not public beta, closed beta. I think in this month. I'm not sure when it's going to be actually out. But I'm guessing it's going to be sometime fairly soon. I mean, with Music Messer coming up, there's going to be some stuff. Incidentally, if you haven't checked out already, we've started putting up videos from the Utrecht dance fair, which was on this weekend. Ed filmed quite a lot of stuff. We got a little bit extra with the JDXi, which I've actually got coming this week, so I'm hoping to be able to get my hands on that and mess around with it, because I know it's getting a lot of bad press, but I'm looking, and I still think actually that looks really useful for just throwing ideas down. So obviously with judgment reserved until I actually get the thing in my hands, and Ed's got a bunch of really interesting workflow discussions with lots of other people as well, so it's pretty cool.
The JDXi does look good, I think.
Well, in principle, yeah. I like the notion of it, definitely. So we'll see whether or not, I mean, I guess, it's like a kind of microcorg on steroids. I mean, Yeah.
I think that's the thing. If you approach it like that, I think it's an important distinction to make. And, for some people, if it was like their first synth, I think that'd be an awesome synth to have.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you consider what I think my first one, was a D110, which was very capable, but not an awful lot
boring
to use. And it wasn't boring at all. I made some of my biggest selling records using that particular combination. But
it's boring to operate, isn't it?
Hard work. Yeah, it definitely is.
No.
Like
I don't know, MT32. If you have the Dr. T editor on the Atari ST for the MT32, you can do quite a lot with it.
Yeah, that's true.
The square wave and the other one. I don't know if it's a triangle or a star. I can't remember. They can be fed through resonant filters and stuff, and you can sort of. You can't put resonant filters on samples, but it's still good.
Period though? There was a period of time from maybe I might be wrong about this, but about 1985 to about 1992, where the user interfaces of these keyboards, with a very small, thin LED and hardly any hands-on controls. So there's that is the bleakest period of
It's
keyboards.
interesting. It's the advance of the microprocessor.
What if you had an editor?
Well,
I agree. But just without the editor, the actual units themselves, I think they were going for this kind of minimalist thing.
It started with the Yamaha FB01, I think. Because you got the Yamaha DX100, and then it kind of went into the Yamaha FB01, and then it kind of continued until I've just bought a JV80, a Roland JV80, and that's got lots of controls on it. So I guess they kind of brought the controls back in around that point.
The JD800, I remember seeing that when that came out. That was like a return.
That. Yeah, well, that was all good stuff. And also, to take things in a completely different direction, we've also got some amazing pieces coming up. We shot with Alessandro Cortini very kindly. You may have seen I had a bit of a chat with him on the Make Noise booth, I think it was, on the Sunday. And he very kindly invited us into his house. And we went there on our day off just before we flew and shot quite a lot of footage of him showing us around his Buchla collection and making some noise with it. And it's a real treat. I can't wait to get that out there. But now we're struggling. We got all of this stuff to go out, and we got Music Messer approaching. So, there's going to be a lot of video coming out shortly. So do stay tuned for that. Okay, right. What else should we have? We had Camel. Non-linear approaches to songwriting. This out on the face of it seemed like quite an interesting article, and this was tweeted out. I've been following Keith McMillan on Facebook. I thoroughly recommend you do that, because they post a lot of really interesting pieces, and this was one of them as I was sitting around last night trying to figure out what we're going to have on the show, and I just thought that headline was actually quite interesting. But this is on Keyboard Mag. I'm not by Craig Anderton, actually. I didn't realise he was still writing, actually, but good on you, Craig. And this is more of a kind of introduction to the notion of it, because I'd imagine that we often work in that way anyway, because that's what DAWs are often used for, rather than regular recording. But I just wondered whether there are anything specific about that you kind of thought, that's an interesting approach. Mark, I switched you on.
I work like that anyway, I think. I just do everything with loops and then pull the loops apart eventually and turn it into a song. So I don't really... I almost think like the arrangement's an afterthought to anything I'm doing. So I'm kind of like, this is a cool vibe, or this is a cool groove, and I'm doing whatever. And then and then it has to be kind of expanded out into something later.
Yeah. Which is, I think, ultimately
so
what he's talking about there, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just sit going round and round and round, stacking things on top of things and going, that works with that and this doesn't, and blah, blah, blah. And I definitely don't sit down. I have done it a bit more recently. We'll sit down with a guitar and try and work out the song, but I still think in loops. So I'm still thinking, okay, how am I going to record this in sections? And then I can and jump around between sections and decide on the arrangement much later. So I don't sit down and think I've got to work out the intro and then the beginning of the song, then the verse, then the chorus. I always think chorus first, I think.
Yeah, I think that's often the way, isn't it?
Work out how am I going to get to the chorus and what's the verse going to be like. I've noticed that all songs at the moment sound the same. It might be because I'm 52, or it might just be because all songs sound the same, but they've all got that chorus now that goes da 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 da. Every song. So they have a little curly rap in the verse.
All songs like that sound like that. There you go. There's a free sample for you out there. If you're listening to the podcast, you could take that and turn that into a hit. Mark has just outlined exactly how. Obviously, you might need to enhance his but no, it's very interesting you say that. But I was thinking. I mean, just coming back to it, I was thinking actually something quite different in that. Yes, most songs are very formulaic, but what's really interesting, if you listen back to maybe some of the stuff that, you know, in your youth you were, or when you were more musically sort of listening to the what was coming out in pop, if that's what was indeed the way that you listen to music, you listen back to, say, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and the arrangements are just insipid and obvious and really kind of like, oh God, really? You know, I mean, I'm guilty. It's like, okay, double chorus at the start, verse, half chorus, double verse, double chorus, middle, you know, and breakdown chorus, top of the pot. And I used to do very formulaic, but now I find that, you know, there's actually much more interesting arrangements like half bridge sections, and people are essentially taking the same formulas but being really quite radical and interesting with the arrangement, which keeps it interesting. It's essentially the same thing. I don't know whether you've noticed that sort of thing, Gaz. I mean, I'm guessing your stuff is well, I know your stuff is quite a interesting arrangement anyway. It just then doesn't tend to follow those same patterns.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did work in pop music for about 7 or 8 years, and I remember when Richard X started coming on the scene, a London-based producer. I think he's London-based, but certainly a British producer, and he was like producing a lot of kind of mainstream acts. Like he had success with Girls Aloud, like Sounds of the Underground. And
oh yeah, I remember the Richard X mix was the one that was there was I forget the name of the singer. She was in S Club, Rachel somebody or other. And the Richard X mix was an absolute dead ringer for Goldfrapp's. One of Goldfrapp's. You know that in fact, you're getting that kind of glam shuffle. Actually, is really quite front and center now at the moment in many UK pop tunes. But anyway, just like to say.
Yeah, but yeah, there was. I noticed a definite shift in the actual arrangements of pop songs around that period of time, which may have coincided with just trying to work out when that would have been, probably early 2000s. More maybe Ableton Live, possibly Workflow, possibly coming in and being able to sort of being able to apply a non-linear way of working. Because prior to live, especially if you're working with
very
audio,
difficult, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was very difficult.
Insert a 2/4 bar here, no chance. You know, it's like, oh, that's going to throw everything out. I can't deal with that. Yeah.
I've had that problem actually, where I've been working on something, and Warren Cucurulo is a stickler for these bizarre little turnarounds in the middle of things. And I think when I first started working with Duran, I was using Notator.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
and I always worked pattern mode, and he was like going, right, I want a 2-beat turnaround here, and I'm like going, oh God, how do I do that? Because I've got to get the pickup from the vocal back in.
Yeah, it's
on
the
the
boundary
front
stuff.
This thing on a. I know. Oh no, maybe I didn't have to get. Yeah, no, I did. I got a sample of something, and I had to get the pickup of the sample before. So I had to get something happening before the pattern started in this 2-beat breakdown, and you have to be good at maths to work out how to make it work, basically, and you have to think shortening sections and lengthening other sections into them and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
that's where it becomes difficult. But yeah, you're right, Gaz. I mean, there is a lot more creativity in the arrangement these days. Maybe not in the kind of general formulaic approach to what makes a pop song, but the actual...
Well, you know, I mean, the software is better than ever for coming up with interesting, creative music, you know. So yeah, I wonder why we're not maybe seeing enough really amazing new stuff coming out yet. Whether it'll take a while for some
because
of the
because it defaults to 4/4, and
yeah,
people
maybe
get the computer in front of them, and probably a lot of the younger people are probably just hitting the computer for the first time and learning to use it, and it's stuck in 4/4. So
that's a fair point.
It takes a certain amount of musical experience to do things in anything other than 4/4, and then by the time you've got that musical experience, you've been doing it for 20 years or so, or maybe longer, you're probably
not making
well and truly used to the sound of 4/4, and it's a really kind of, it's a tough departure to make, I reckon.
That's an interesting point, but I refer you back. Obviously, the chat room is saying that what about your brother Adamski? You know, he did the and he's still doing the 3/4 stuff. So I mean, that's yeah. So worth checking out.
Cutting the last beat off everything.
Yeah,
I think that's his technique.
Yeah, no, what he does, he works in 3/4. Yeah. God, imagine making an arrangement.
Which works really well, actually.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So yes, if you want to check out any more of that, I mean, just some things to ponder there, perhaps, for sure.
But again, just saying one more thing about that. Again, it's a very deliberate departure from what he's given the user interface, isn't it? Because he's got the user interface in front of him, and then he just goes, right, I'm going to stop there instead and cut that beat off. And so you need to do it deliberately, I suppose, because you're still presented with 4/4 as a default.
Gaz, what are you doing? So you've started to make some sound. What's that? Are you spontaneously composing?
Well, I was. Let me just turn this auto latch off.
You leaned across your keyboard, and it was in sustain mode.
Well, I've borrowed the Waldorf Streichfett.
Oh yes, that's right.
And I've been playing around with the Cubase 8 and the chord pads, and you wouldn't have to have it attached to the Streichfett, but it makes the Streichfett is certainly
it's just fully polyphonic, isn't it? So you just kind of you can go right up to the red zone on chords. The don't press this button, because when we did the thing about using the chord track, it was showing these kind of really advanced ones, and they're sort of dangerous chords.
yeah. So I've been having lots of fun playing around with the Streichfett in sort of. Using it to play chords, and what I've been doing is doing a whole stream of chords. Basically, you can there's preset chords that you can load onto. So if you're using like a 16 pad thing, like a multitude of these pad controllers, then you can load up a preset of chords where suitable chords can be mapped across the different pads, and then you can actually latch them. So when you trigger a chord, it continues to play. But then you can make them like go into this legato mode. So when you play another chord, any of the same notes in the existing chord will continue to be latched, and only the new notes of the chords will change. So that's a really ace way of working, because you're just kind of hitting pads.
Like that.
Oh, particularly with string pads as well, I'd imagine. Yeah, with
string pads, and with the Streichfett, it's awesome because I got one hand hitting pads and the other hand on the controls of the Streichfett. So it's a good example of like hardware. Because we went to the Streichfett yesterday, weren't we, Nick? Sort of just in that it's like it's not a lot more than a plug-in costs. But like physical plugins is really nice.
Something to be said.
But just about the writing strategy. So I play a whole bunch of chords in, and then well, I use a thing on Cubase called the arranger, but there's other things that have maybe similar kind of functions. But I'll just listen to my chord changes that I've done fairly randomly, and then I'll just define regions of the interesting chord changes, but not be too worried about the time signature, like with trying to make the changes. Maybe everything is to a pulse, but not worry too much about nice even bar lengths, so there could be odd bar lengths or even odd time signatures. But it's quite an interesting way of working, and that's what's been floating my boat lately.
Well, that's an
in terms of
idea.
a sort of non-linear approach, in that, well, it's kind of linear, I guess, in some ways, but
spontaneous chording, I suppose.
Yeah,
I've just had an email in. Just going back to I've just had my the price from Korg that I can buy this little combination, not including the Eventide H9, which people have been asking, is it an H9 Max? I have absolutely no idea. I don't know how you tell. I haven't got the box here at the moment, but yeah, so now I'm really seriously thinking about that, because I'm connecting with it in a big way. But the problem I have noticed, and this is completely random and sort of tangential, is that I was looking, because I thought, if I could sell my original MS-20 and have a few £100 spare, I'd buy, not an H9 or maybe an H9, that sort of effects that gives me that sort of shimmery, or delay or whatever. But honestly, on eBay, YouTube MS-20 originals aren't going for much more than 650, 700 quid. It's absolutely, it's really surprising, yeah. Unless you've got like a fantastic flight case, or it comes with I saw them with a Kenton Pro Solo, and that was about 750, and that seemed to have sold. But it's really kind of like.
Does that mean that all these clones are murdering the price of the originals then?
Yes, I would say that.
Is that the same? Is the same true for the TT303 and the TB303? I wonder.
I'm not so sure, because there aren't as many of those around. Whereas,
the TB303s.
Well, either. It's not.
Well, there's loads of TT303s, so aren't there the bass bot or whatever?
Maybe. Maybe you're right. I haven't looked, to be honest. But yeah, it's a bit. Ooh. There goes my daughter's inheritance. Better start selling those polysynths soon before they start bringing in more of those out, so I can get a decent price for whatever. So it's interesting though. But yeah, as I say, I was jamming a bit before the show, just because I can.
Jesus. Well, I said the last TB303 I saw in Matrix was £2,800. I saw mine for 50 quid. I'm not going to go into that.
No, actually. We've heard that story. It's a very sad tale. Still, I mean that is a shocker.
Well, the worst part is it wasn't mine.
Yeah. Well, then you did all right then, didn't you?
Well, no, because the guy whose it was keeps saying to me, when are you going to give me my 303 back? He's still asking me all this time later. This is getting harder and harder. Get
a bass bot and put some transfers on it.
Yeah, I think I might have to do that.
But yeah, interesting. But I'm now in a bit of a quandary. I don't know what to do, because I get the MS-20 desktop so much more than I get the MS-20. I just don't. Even though I've had it for 20 years or however long it's been, I just don't get it in the same way that I do with this. And it's so yeah, I'm going to have to do some hard thinking. Not that I've got any money whatsoever. So let's have a look at what's our next topic. We've probably got time for one more.
Shall I just play a few of these Streichfett chords?
Oh yeah, okay. If you've got it, yeah, go on then.
Here we go. Let me just load up. I did have some chords. Sorry, I thought that was going to be a lot quicker then.
When you said, "Shall I just play some chords?" I thought that's exactly what we really get.
It was working, but I changed the right.
It's very quiet.
Oh, I tell you what, I'll come back to it.
All right, maybe you can play us out with it. All right, let's find another topic. This is actually cool. Let's see. This was the have I got this here? Where it is? Yes, this is the MIDI widget, which I've actually just invested in. This is basically pretty neat.
My name is John Staskovich. This is the MIDI widget. It's a device that allows you to control almost anything in the real world via MIDI messages sent from your computer or from a MIDI controller. It can function as the brain for a music robot, a lighting controller, a guitar effect switcher, or lots of other things. The MIDI widget accepts MIDI input via a traditional 5-pin MIDI connector or via a direct USB connection to a computer. No special drivers are required. It appears as a standard MIDI port in your favorite music software. It also works with the iPad camera connection kit. In response to MIDI input, the MIDI widget generates 24 independent 5-volt logic signals. Add your own relays or driver circuitry to control just about anything. No programming is required. Use the MIDI widget configurator software to select the behavior for each output. The outputs can respond to MIDI note, CC, program change, and sync messages. The MIDI widget can be powered over USB or with a separate power supply or battery. The MIDI widget design is already complete and has been beta tested. If the
I won't play. Oh no, I will play it. The reason I was interested in this is obviously, I mean, those of you who perhaps know, I've been working on Raspberry Pi based kind of LED switches and stuff, and essentially all of that development is now available on that little board. So I can send a MIDI note in and a light will go on, for instance, at a basic level, but it could do so many other things as well. And I just thought that is really cool. And I did pledge one today. I think it cost about $60. And he's got 19 days to go. He's kind of just over halfway. I don't think there's been a huge number. I think I was the last one because it was at 48 before I did. Oh, there we go. You pledged $63. There we go. So I'm a backer. Woohoo! But it just kind of got me thinking about this whole. I'm still trying to figure out what it is that MIDI doesn't do that people get really kind of like, oh, it needs to be so much more than it is. And I've yet to be kind of totally convinced that it needs to be massively updated. I don't know if you've been watching, but recently there was a round of consultation for the MIDI.org who are working on the spec for 2.0, and they've asked for input from users. I think there's a form. I think we published a news item on it, and it's kind of like a very long-winded consultation. I mean, it's obviously a lot harder to do than the original MIDI, which took much less time, and everybody was cooperating. I just wondered, is there something I'm missing? Do we really what do we actually need MIDI 2.0 to do? Is it higher resolution controls, or what is it? Gaz, do you know? You're muted. You're muted. Oh, he's playing the chords. What do you think, Mark? I mean, wouldn't you like the idea of being able to MIDI control all these things? You could have it switch the lights on. You could have it do all sorts of things.
I think that the one thing that's missing from MIDI in terms of being able to automate stuff is the fader resolution on mixing.
Okay. Yeah.
But apart from that, it works pretty well, doesn't it? I mean, maybe if it was faster, maybe if it was. Because if you play a lot of notes, it's a serial interface, and it's an older 8-bit or 7-bit, isn't it? So if you play lots of notes, they tend to chain up and things start arriving late.
Isn't that just down to the old hardware rather than the actual protocol? Because if that's going over USB or a faster bus, then it's not so much of an issue.
It's not so much of an issue if it's on a fast USB bus and you've got if you've got each of your MIDI synths on a separate cable. It used to be that if you had everything chained together, they would all get a bit sticky. And I don't know. I mean, I have bought a MIDI keyboard. I bought a Roland JV80. I keep saying talking about it. I'm very excited because I bought it off eBay for £50.
Whoa!
And actually, it's got a classic kind of Roland mod wheel and pitch bender and quite a nice key bed, so it's perfect for me. Whether or not I get around to using the sounds in it or not, I don't know. But in terms of it controlling Logic or Ableton or Reaper or Pro Tools with MIDI, it does it brilliantly. Yeah. And then it probably is going to be the only MIDI cable I have in my studio. Being the MIDI out from this keyboard into my computer. So
I think actually I think the point is, yes, you're right. Fader resolution, so higher resolution controllers across multiple channels. Because at the moment you could only really use that if you're using maybe the pitch bend, which gives you the 8-bit control, which should be plenty for a fader, but that's only one per channel. And then you need multiple ports. So if you had a massive amount of tracks, then that would be problematic. Then you're going to end up with quite a lot harder stuff, harder to implement, I suppose. Gaz,
just before. I was going to say, I'm sort of looking at this and thinking, well, maybe I could automate everything in my house, but this is not how I would do it these days.
I'd go out and buy those Wi-Fi switches, which are about £30 each, and you put one on each of your light switches, and you can control it all from an app on your phone. So the wiring to control 24 things in my house from this would just be, it would be silly. So but putting it on Wi-Fi, as long as it can find the Wi-Fi and log on to it, and I can find the Wi-Fi and log on to it, I can walk around the house turning the lights on and off, or changing the colour of the bulbs.
Yeah,
even.
well, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think Gaz may indeed be ready to demonstrate some Steinberg action. Let's have a look.
Okay.
I might have to go and get on the MS a sec.
So I can turn that around.
Lovely. Although, once again, my attempts to do anything musically meaningful from a long way away while not being able to hear it properly just embarrassed myself once again. What you did was lovely there, Gaz. I can see what you mean. There was a sort of Jean-Michel Jarre vibe going on there with that sort of phasing. It sounded like a string machine type of thing going on. It's
just so nice that you got your hands relatively free, you know. I mean, yes, you can do it with the play chords on your keyboard.
I found the thing I found was, with something like that has full polyphony, it was the same when I had the Casio PX piano, which was just an 88 key. It was very, very low cost, 88 weighted keys, and it's got like 256 note polyphony. Just the fact that you could just kind of let everything ring out and play loads of notes and stick your foot on the sustain pedal, and you can do the same thing with the Streichfett with a big keyboard, and there's a different sort of feel. You don't have to octave up and down and stuff. So I can see the attraction there.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I'm going to have to give the Streichfett back, but I think it's I think it's. Ooh, that could be.
Are you tempted?
I am tempted, I think, because I just the fact that it has a very specific purpose, and that it doesn't do more than. I mean, it does quite a lot within itself, but it doesn't do. It is just very much a focus, and that the controls are not having to multitask, that everything is just easy to adjust. And I think and they're good. I think they're
only a couple of hundred quid, aren't they?
And it's a super impressive sound. Everybody who hears it just absolutely loves it. And but when it came out, people were kind of thinking it's a bit of a joke, or it's in part to do with their
sort of sexy kind of slight sort of soft porn kind of Vaseline screen kind of approach to the marketing that they were doing. Yes, I agree, but no, it is a great sounding little keyboard. I think for those who are interested, if you want to if you search YouTube, then you can check. I did a review on it where I gave it a reasonably good workout, but everybody's going to do things slightly differently, of course. What I should mention, while if you're still watching this on YouTube, and I do believe some people do get past the first couple of minutes of this show every week, and you haven't subscribed, then you know what to do. Just subscribe, and then you won't have to worry about finding it again, because we do this every week. That feels like a good place to maybe consider the stopping of this week's show, because we have covered a lot of ground, and it's 5:15, and all of those things. But I want to say thank you very much to everybody. Thank you especially to our show sponsors, iZotope, for their continued sponsor of the show. Remember, if you want to win a copy of Iris 2, you need to tweet out the hashtag Iris2 expertly crafted, all one word, and Iris 2 is at Iris and 2, and to @Sonic State and @iZotope Inc. So please do that if you're interested in winning, and congratulations to our winner this week, who was, of course, just in case you missed it, Randall G. Hill, as rhill109 on Twitter. So do let me know who you are, and the iZotope Fairy will iZotope Fairy the crap out of it, as she very kindly put in one of her emails, and I just thought, that's what a great notion that is. iZotope Fairying the crap out of a prize winner. There you go, you got that to look forward to, Randall. Anyway, I want to say thank you very much. Thank you to Mark Tinley, who's there in his new abode. I'm liking it. I just think we need to get you wired up somehow, because it's definitely, the bandwidth hasn't really increased, so there must be some blockage in your pipes somewhere, is all I can assume.
Oh.
But thanks for joining us.
I'll look in the router and see what it says, and I will I'll run a 3-mile Ethernet cable right round the house.
Well,
see if that makes any difference.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very much appreciated. But thank you very much, Mark, for joining us. A pleasure to have you,
very
as
welcome.
always. And I hope your unpacking of boxes does not last 10 years like it does when most people move houses.
We've done it in a very special, clever way, actually. And that is that we only had 6 boxes. And we only moved from around the corner. So we kept going to the house and filling the boxes up and then bringing them here and then emptying them out and putting everything away.
Oh,
so we've only got, or maybe I had a few more than 6. Maybe I've got 10 boxes. But what it means is most of the things have come out of boxes and gone into places. So there's very few boxes lying around. The kitchen's pretty good. It looks
Excellent.
like a kitchen.
That's good
I
work.
just have no idea where anything is because Gina put everything in the cupboards.
I know
So
how that works. I know how that
find a
goes.
mug earlier on.
I know how that goes. There's something about the fairer sex that goes into a sort of everything. I need to reorganise the house mode every couple of months, and then you just go.
Yeah.
I just need. Where's that? Where's my? It
But
just.
to give her credit, she did say to me, right, I've organised the kitchen. Do you want me to show you where everything is in the cupboards? And I was running around with an electric drill putting up shelves, and I just said, no, not now. I'll do it later. And now
missed your
it's
chance.
too late. She's gone back to work. So.
So now you're home alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, well, thank you very much, as I said, for joining us. It'd be a pleasure to have you on, as ever. And also, I will say thank you very much to Gaz Williams over there in Bristol. You'll be seeing a lot more of Gaz recently. We're going to do a pocket operator week or thereabouts, I think. So that's the plan. So do do check that out. So thanks, Gaz, for joining us.
Yeah, no, pleasure. It's always plenty of fun, and yeah, great. Yeah, so check out them pocket operator reviews.
Yeah, they'll be going up soon. I'm going to try and get onto those tomorrow. I do have other reviews in the pipeline as well. And also want to say thanks to Ed for the Dance Fair coverage. I think he's been in the chat room, so answering various questions and putting his point of view across there. So thank you very much. Do check out, it's Dance Fair 2015 is the kind of headline pre-headline bit, so you'll be able to find that stuff there. So anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, this week, and of course congratulations to our theme tune winner, and that's it for Sonic Talk number 394. Was it 394? 394, good lord. There we go. Anyway, that's it. See you later.